Well, it's another beautiful day of forest fire season. Out here, getting firewood. We got this big, dead standing spruce. Had my eye on this one for a few months now. Got the saw gassed up, ready to rock, so let's take down that tree, get us some firewood. So a quick little update here. I have been busy back around home, haven't been out to the trap line all too much. Haven't been out there actually in about a month. So nothing's really changed since the last video. I'm trying to get ready for winter, so getting wood here today. And right away I'm going to be getting back out to the cabin and starting to build the firewood shack. I got to get that done. I'm hoping to get it done before mid-September. And then from there on out I can work on the skinning shed, getting that ready for the upcoming season. And then we'll just be moving into trapping from there. Definitely not my cleanest notch that I cut in the front there. Still got a lot of learning to do with those face cuts. Well, there we go. Fell right across the trail, right where I wanted it to. Didn't smash my truck. And besides the top of that tree there, this is actually looking like some pretty sound wood. But the tree itself looks really good. Nice wood, just a little bit of rot right at the heart there. But other than that, not too shabby. It's a fairly decent sized tree too. About, I'd say 2 feet across easily. I keep forgetting to put my tape measure back in my little saw kit here, so I can't actually measure it, but I'd say it's 2 feet across. I don't know if all this will fit in the back of my truck. I can fit a little bit less than a cord in the back of that truck before it gets to be too much, so we'll start processing and see if it can handle it. I know some people might think measuring out your firewood is a complete waste of time. For me, I really like it. All my firewood is the same length. It's nice and consistent. It stacks up way better when it's the same length, and it looks a lot neater in the wood pile as well. And it only takes a couple extra minutes to measure out even a really long tree like this. So my measuring device here is just a piece of spruce that I cut out from a piece of firewood actually. Painted the tip orange, oiled the wood. It's just got a little magnet on the end. Simply sticks to my bar. Very easy to take on and off. I can switch sides if I need to. And gives me a perfect 16-inch piece of firewood every time. This wood is actually really, really nice. Bone dry. It's gonna be good for burning. Saw's been running great. Just about to get into the big wood now, so we'll see how she goes. I got my work cut out for me now. Time to get busy swinging the axe. Made it through all this wood. It's nice wood. I'm happy with it. My saw almost ran out of fuel on this last cut, but we made her through. The saw's doing real good. Pretty happy with it. Might have a quick trail side fire. Make up a quick lunch and then get busy swinging the axe. So while I'm cooking up my lunch here, I'll tell you guys a funny story that happened to me in the fall. Funny firewood story. It was in around the middle of October, I believe. I was out getting firewood late in the season as per usual. and got out early in the morning. I believe the temperatures were somewhere right around freezing, so all the soft spots in the ground had froze up a bit. And I go out there with my truck and go down an old logging trail and find this monster of a spruce tree like the one I just cut. And I didn't have my big chainsaw yet. I just had my little one, so there's me processing this tree with 16-inch bar, little 30cc saw, and believe me, it was painfully slow going. I went through, I don't even know how many tanks of fuel getting that tree all bucked up. But anyways, spend the day bucking it up and then splitting all the wood, split that entire tree by hand, got it stacked in the back of my truck. And I think I finished right as the sun was beginning to set. Hop in my truck and begin to go down the trail and made it about 100 yards and then had to cross this low spot that from the heat of the day had softened up quite a bit, and I sunk right down. All that extra weight in the truck, soft ground, I sunk right down, high centered, stuck. I had a small come along that I use for my quad if it gets stuck. Had that in my truck, hooked it up to my truck, but it just didn't have the power. It ended up getting bent and I had to get a new one to replace it because it got all bent and messed up. But so I was stuck, nothing I could do. So I was lucky enough that I had phone service. Called my wife. She drove an hour out there to come pick me up in the dark. I had to hike out to the main road in the dark. Lucky I had my gun with me. And so she picks me up. We head home. So the next morning I wake up bright and early, call my parents and ask if I can borrow their truck to try and pull mine out. My dad was working out of town, so my mom said that I could borrow the truck. So my wife and I go pick up the truck. We drive an hour. Then we drive 2 hours with the truck out to where I'm stuck. I put my wife in my truck, back up my parents' truck, hook up the tow rope, tell my wife that once that tow rope gets tight and you start moving, give it a bit of gas. We're just going to try and pull it out. So I hop in my parents' truck, give it some gas, get going, reach the end of that tow rope, and the tires just start spinning. I hop out, have a look, and I've got 2 stuck trucks with a screaming tight tow rope between the 2 of them. It was a disaster. So I eventually worked my parents' truck back and forth to the point where I could disconnect the tow rope. And then once I got the tow rope off, I managed to get my parents' truck out of the mud. And at that point, I was so mad. I said, forget it. I'm not having 2 trucks stuck out here. So my poor wife threw her back in my parents' truck. We drove that 2 hours back to my parents' place, dropped it off, hopped back in our car, and an hour back home. Easy 6 hours of driving that day to really do nothing. So then the next day, wake up early and tell my wife, okay, we're gonna go back out there. This time I came a bit better prepared. I brought a shovel so I could dig myself out. We get out there. I just let her sit in the cab of my truck, stay warm, while I proceed to dig the truck out, which was quite an ordeal. Grab my shovel, stick it into the mud, and step on it, try and lift some mud out. Handle breaks. So now I got a spade shovel with a 2.5 foot handle. So what I ended up doing was taking out each wheel, stacking firewood underneath of them, made a path so I could drive up onto the high ground. It took a few hours of work, but I finally got my truck out, and I did have to unload pretty much all the firewood to get the weight out of it, to get my truck out of that hole. Finally got it out of the mud hole, drove it up to the dry ground. So then I had my truck way up here and all my firewood back by the mud hole. So my poor wife, I don't know how she puts up with me. Her and I, we arm load basically a whole cord of wood about 100 yards from where it was on the ground to my truck. Oh man, it was such a disaster, such a gong show. I ended up ripping off part of my front bumper, which I still have yet to fix. And yeah, it was not a great experience, but kind of a funny story looking back on it now. At the time I was not laughing at all, I'll tell you that. But oh man, just another day in my life. So my new rule is sticking to dry ground only. Sticking to trees that are a little bit closer to the main road and not doing anything quite that goofy anymore. Well, that's enough chit chat. Eat my lunch and get to swinging the axe. Whew. Whew. This wood is tricky to split. You can see just how much curve or twist this tree has. I've been checking under some of the bark. Look at this check right here. You can just see it. So this whole tree as it's been growing has just been twisting. And the twist is really tight, which makes it very difficult to split. Made it through the bottommost rounds. Hard work. This wood is not wanting to split up very easily at all. Might just keep picking away at it. A log splitter would be nice, but it's nice to do it by hand too. Keeps the guy young. Not that I'm getting old at all, but I know people my age that wouldn't be able to walk around the block, let alone swing an axe and chop wood, so there's worse ways to spend the day, that's for sure. I'll just keep swinging away.